Hello, everybody. This is a male space, and today I have with me Glenn Lawrence.
How you
Thank you for
doing?
being here, Glenn. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Glenn Lawrence. There I am.
Okay, yes. So, how did you get into the male content, and how did you get here? What's your background? What led you
Yeah.
here? Yes,
So you want my Batman origin story, as we
yes,
call it.
yeah,
Uh, I was married for 14 years. I was a youth pastor. I was as you were a fitness competitor. I think you did bodybuilding. I did classic physique.
yeah.
Um, and I ended up getting divorced because I found out that my wife had three affairs.
Mm.
And I found out about all three of them when I found out about the very last one. And I just was struggling with that whole process. I was trying to talk to my pastor about it. And he just told me that I needed to be a better servant leader and I needed to be more like Hosea. And just Hosea in the Bible marries a prostitute. She cheats on him. He keeps on bringing her back and stuff like that. And I was like, well, wait a minute. You're saying that her cheating is my fault? Like, and I couldn't like comprehend that. Like, it just didn't make, to me, that was the most retarded thing I could ever heard before in my life. Like, you're blaming someone else's actions on me. And I remember him telling me I needed to step down because I had unforgiveness in my heart from the youth pastor. And I was like, fine, okay. And then he put her in place of me as the youth leader. And then I just kind of like was not really wanted at church, so I just kind of withdrew. And that was when I started like something is wrong. Something is really wrong. And we are now punishing innocent people for other people's actions. And I started like, as I'm going through the divorce, everybody I was trying to talk to that I knew, like to kind of other men, either my family members, like uncles or cousins, older cousins, or friends of the church community that I was in. I'm trying to like gauge with them, and they all had the same. The first thing was like, "What did you do wrong?" I was like, "Wait a minute, why does it have to be that I did something wrong here?" And it was just this weird narrative that like I felt like I was in a Twilight Zone. It was like, what? Like everybody's like, assuming that this woman's bad behavior is ultimately my fault. And I've never in my life experienced like having to say that someone's bad behavior was somebody else's fault. You're not even growing up, right? And you know, I was very suicidal. I was trying constantly searching to trying to find someone or some type of literature, something to inform me, educate me what the hell is going on here? What did I do wrong? And then that's when I came across Rollo Tomasi and the guys from Rule Zero at the time. Actually, they weren't even Rule Zero yet. They were still part of the Red Man group when it was part of 21 Convention. And I was listening to content. I was like, literally thinking like this guy is literally, or these guys are literally talking about my lived experience. Like they are saying what happened as if they were, narrating my life. And it really woke me up to like, okay, I'm not the only one. Like they're telling my story. I can't be the only one. So I started really getting into the content and consuming, learning as much as I could. Um, and but I noticed something. There was something fundamental that I could not accept. What I could not accept is the amoral aspect of the prescriptions that they were offering. Now, I agreed with all the descriptions of the problems that they said men were facing, but it was the prescriptions that I had a problem with. And so I ended up becoming associates with another guy that was part of the 21 convention. His name is Pastor Mike Foster. And Pastor Mike Foster wrote the book It's Good to Be a Man. And that's probably the best red pill Christian book ever, right? Because I mean, it's I would say it's better than the Rational Male in the sense of it really kind of breaks down what men are dealing with on in the real everyday sense, but then he gives really good applications on how to adjust it from this worldview. And so when I was talking to him, I was like, man, so how do you juggle this red pill? Bible, how are we supposed to adopt this, framework when we have a worldview that's supposed to be a biblical worldview, but this worldview is not biblical. It's amoral. I mean, when you have an amoral or the rule zero premise, you're saying whatever works works, and I can't get with that because imposing your will onto someone else, taking advantage of them physically or anyway, that is immoral. That cannot ever be considered a rule or an advice or a means to you know get what you want,
Right.
right? And so he's like, well, it's simple. The red pill tells you what is the problem. He's like, but the Bible tells you what to do about the problem. And that's when that clicked on me. And I was like, okay, cool. I could. And I noticed like a lot of guys in the space, in the chats or on Twitter and Twitter threads, they were struggling because a lot of them did leave from the church. They have left churches and they were looking for help because the churches weren't giving them help. And the red pill creators, not all of them, but the good majority of them, didn't hold a biblical worldview. So there was this lane there was this void that needed to be filled. And since I have a degree in theology, and I've been through, like what it's like to be in ministry, and I've even sat in like marriage counseling when a pastor was counseling, a husband, and I've experienced all of this, and I'm like, I could help him out here. So I started, making content. Then I teamed up with my mentor, RP Thor, who just passed away this past May. And we started working together. We had our own Saturday show, panel show. We called it the Dragon Ship. And I would be the only one that would come at it from the closest thing to a biblical worldview than anybody else, right? So I was able to attract an audience that had, same shared mindset, you know. But I always tell people I'm like the worst Christian, right? Like don't model your Christianity or your faith after me. Because I have no problem cursing. I don't have no problem saying I like, titties, and I have no problem saying all the things that your normal traditional Christian is not supposed to say, I guess, politically. I'm just honest with it. And so that's how I got here. I mean, I've been here now since 2018, almost 10 years.
Yeah, significant amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seen a lot.
yes, yeah, yes. I mean, I think that I've been observing the male content for quite some time. I mean, I never really got into the so-called pickup artistry. I never got into it, but I knew it was there. I would dabble like looking around in the mid 2000s, let's say around 2005, 2006. I remember more like an entertainment type of thing, never implementing it. The early PUA material from David
Mystery.
D'Angelo. Well, Mystery, David D'Angelo, and the
Hmm.
guy who wrote the book The Game. I recall that was the name of it.
Neil Strauss.
Yeah, Neil Strauss, yes. And there
Yeah.
were various forums for like just forums on seduction and PUA. But I never went out into the world and started to use what I read online. But it definitely informed me that something was amiss here. I would think to myself, why would there be all this material? Why would there be so much material to so-called pick up women, excuse me, than to just simply, I guess, live one's life as a guy and just meet women in the way that people met in the 90s, not having to rely on
Yeah.
information. So it kind of gave me this hint that like something is amiss, that something, the relationship between the sexes is off, or that, yeah, I would say that the word off fits. Why would men need to consume this stuff?
I would say that, what gave it validity, right, is that the things that men were told about women end up being discovered as not true, right?
Yes,
We were
exactly.
told that women are everything nice and sweet and spice or whatever, and sugar and spice, and it's just like, well, wait a minute, did I get a defected one? Because this one got fangs and it bit me. Okay, like like this one's not sweet and spicy. This one's a little demon. and or like, like when women will tell guys like what they want in a man, like what they look for, the guy's looking at the checklist. He goes, I meet that need. I love walks on the beach. I love my mom. I'm great with puppies. Like I'm, like everything that she says on her list, he's like, that's me.
Right.
And then he's like, he attempts to go out with her, and she's like, ew, no. And he's like, well, wait a minute, you just said all these things. I meet all these things,
Yeah.
but it's not me. Are you telling? Guys are like, what the hell's going on? That's what gave credit to what the pickup artists were doing. And what is sad is that it took pickup artistry, right? And you could say evolutionary psychology confirms it, but it took pickup artists. And when social media came out, or not even really social media, but when the internet came on the scene, now it's not that like just this person has these notes and these ideas. He's now able to share them with the world. And then now you have guys either sharing and confirming what they experience, and then now you have this catalogs, or these catalogs of different pickup artists, and different tactics, or things that they have learned over a series of repetitions, and what they've seen what works more often than not, and then now they're able to give these guys this information, because guys were wondering, why is this not working? Disney told me if I was the Prince Charming, if I was nice to her, if I rescued her from the dragon, that she's going to love me for the rest of my life. Why did it only last 7 years? Or did I just rescue the dragon from the evil woman up in the tower? Which one is it?
Right.
Right. And so it's not even, and then from there, you got to think about it. It's not until like currently, not until about now, that we're actually starting to see people accept and acknowledge the truth that pickup artists and these dating coaches and authors like Rollo and Ryan Stone and RP Thor, all these guys are finally have been saying for so long. Now they're finally that there's credit there. I mean, Dr. David Buss came out with his information and his studies, and it kind of reflected very similar to some of the things that these pickup artists were saying. So it gave it some validity. And then so we're here at this point, and here's the funny thing. It been like the last 2 years to a year that we're even starting to see it being reflected in the church. There's now pastors have come out and have talked about hypergamy, women's bad behavior. They're not talking about women as they're actually talking about it. She has autonomy, that she is responsible for her actions now,
Right.
right?
Yes.
That's recent. That is not
Yes.
normal. That has not been the norm for over the last 40 years. So, I mean, the reason why there's so much of it is because, and there's a lot of fraudulent stuff out there too, though, because there's the need, right? Men look for the solution. We try to
Mhm.
build a solution. We try to find a solution. We try to implement a solution because we want to remove the problem. And right now there's the people are not providing the right solution. Just like and this is, I guess this will probably go further on when we get later on in the red pill, but that's my biggest problem with the red pill space, is that it doesn't provide a solution to the very problem that it points out that we're dealing with.
Right. Yes, I agree with that. And well, before we go on, what do you think the red pill gets right, though? I mean, we could that is this discussion itself, but we could
Yeah,
actually,
no,
yeah,
I think I said a little bit ago. I think the red pill is absolutely accurate when it comes to the descriptions of the problems that men are facing.
yes,
When it comes to the family law, when it comes to trying to what women want, what everything that we've been taught, that we got, if we just the nice guy, you know women will love us, like kind of build the field of dreams. If you're just nice, they will come. Like they get a lot of the descriptions of the problems accurate, you know and that's it. That's all I could give them is the descriptions to the problems.
Right. I mean, I also think they give the designations or constructs, they do give accurate depictions of them. I do believe that they're constructs, even though some people think they're silly or, I don't know, cliche. I do believe these designations, such as alpha, beta, omega, alpha widow, these
Yeah,
are real constructs, but they're real constructs to me in a world that is decaying. I mean, they're real, but they're not.
they're container words, like
Yes.
that's how I look at it. Look at it, they're great container words to to give a definition to a multiple of characteristics
Yes.
or behaviors or traits that we may exhibit in people, right?
Yeah.
Um, but like I tell guys, don't get so hung up on it, like because you may think you're alpha. But so here's the funny thing: if you have to tell me how alpha you are,
Yeah.
you just told me how alpha you're not,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I have never seen a king walk into a room and have to remind everybody, hey, you know, male space. Did you know I'm the king? I'm a king.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the king.
Yeah.
Yeah. The king walks into the room and everybody's bowing, right?
Right.
Everybody already knows who he is. He doesn't have to announce himself. So a lot of these guys get hung up on these container words and think like, oh, that's being real beta. That's real. You're not alpha. Well, first of all, alpha is contextual. You're not always going to be the alpha in every given situation, right? So you may be alpha in this. A perfect example: Tom Brady was alpha on the football field. He was the guy. Everybody knew that. They built the team around Tom Brady. He obviously wasn't the alpha at home.
Right. Exactly. So that actually, just to throw this in there, when people talk about, I want to throw this, well, excuse me, people talk about this self-improvement that you must become a high value man and you must go on this high value man treadmill when it's appearing to me that some of the most quote high value men in the world, such as Johnny Depp, Tom Brady, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, uh, various very powerful men, even Will Smith, have been publicly humiliated by
Mhm.
their women and divorced by them. So can we say that the high value male is this the real solution if these men who are quite high value are running into these problems?
Well, I would say the problem is let's start from the problem. The definition of a high value man is a female's definition.
Right.
So why are we accepting what females say?
Well, that is a good question.
I
Yes.
mean, if we're not supposed to be the ones leading and setting the standard, why are we asking them, "Hey, girls, what do you guys think a high value man is?"
Right.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So why are we going off? Why were we
Yeah.
playing by their rules? And why are we makes who makes the definitions? Who sets the
Right.
standard?
Right.
So that's the biggest problem because that's exactly why you're seeing the failure, right? Because I would say, if you ask me what my definition of a high value man is, I have to look at principles that go across all times in history that are unanimous, that they're just irrefutable. All right. So, for example, I would say, would you say, and we'll go, this is how I break down high value, right? So it'd be, you have to have you have to have power, right? Some form of power. You have to have charisma, right? And you have to have the ability to influence. Those three, those three, right? So would you say, I don't know, Jesus was a high value man then?
Yes.
He had the ability to influence, he had charisma, and because he won the people over, not even talk about the divinity of him, but because he had the people, right? He had power. He had people following him. And then look what that influence did. It created this entire Christian Western society that we live in belief system. That to me seems like a high value man, right? Look at, we'll say Gandhi. Would you not agree that Gandhi also had some form of charisma, influence, and then power? How,
Yes.
how about the Apostle Paul? Poor. He had charisma. He had the ability to influence, and that led to power. It has
Right.
nothing to do about the six sixes. It has nothing to do about all the money, driving a Ferrari, or what's the color of your Bugatti, right? It
Yeah.
had nothing to do about having a bunch of hoes all around you. It had to do with three basic, overlooked characteristics: charisma, the ability to influence, then power.
Yes, I mean, I fully agree with that. I mean, my view, I have friends who are mostly middle class or upper class. However, me personally, who I want to associate with, I don't think to myself when I associate with another man who I want to befriend or just share recreational activities with, I don't say to myself, is this man rich? I say to myself, is this a man who's sincere? Is this a man who's genuine? Does this guy have honor, loyalty? I don't care what some guy's bank account looks like. I don't care whether he's uh, working sanitation or whether he's an accountant or surgeon. I'm looking at the person's character and his loyalty to his fellow man, what he does for society, what he does for his family, his children, his wife. Yes, all that. I don't.
The mo- I agree with you because what the modern definition of high value does, it removes morality.
Yes.
And then they get mad when all guys ain't shit. They just want to abuse women. They just want to fuck us and dump us and leave us, right? That's the kind of like the what ends up happening when women go after those high value men. Why does it seem like all those quote unquote high value men are the ones that always seem to be caught up in some form of scandal?
Well, I believe, as I said with this man Noah Everway that I was talking with in one of my recent videos, is that we do live in a society where bad behavior from both sexes, whether it's financially, socially, that people these days are in many cases rewarded for doing the wrong thing. This is
Hmm.
a big problem in our society, and it's not just the sexual market; it is all of our markets have been tampered with so that more virtuous people are getting the shaft. That's my belief. Like for example, in the book Sexual Utopia and Power, there's a line that I often repeat because it's such a profound line. It says that like inflation, sexual liberation turns the market upside down by actively punishing the virtuous and rewarding the vicious. And you could see this in the
Yeah,
sexual, yes, and you could see this across all markets.
yeah.
And this is a very bad thing, but it has that phenomenon has definitely infected the sexual market. And I do believe that a large part of it is pushed by media. I think that's a big factor, actually. Music,
Propaganda.
yes, propaganda, yes. It's just
Yeah.
that is a big problem. And I don't like, I can't say that everybody. See, sometimes I might apply the term red pill to content creators that might not be red pill, but they seem like they're red pill. And some of them do push this sort of immoral behavior and also this antagonistic mentality towards women, which is just simply furthering our problems. And that's what I have to say to that.
Yeah, no, like I think like for me, like I personally I wouldn't classify myself per so much as red pill.
Right.
Um I could acknowledge what is true, right? From the red pill. Now, which I do, and I say that it is the description to the problems that men are facing. But I don't fall into I can't be red pill because I don't adopt or believe in the whole I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I take what is I find useful, which is the descriptions to the problems,
Yes.
and I discard everything else because it doesn't fit my worldview. I don't find that it's a solution. And I'll tell you why, right? There's an article that Rollo wrote about, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. And it was called about like guys who fuck versus guys who don't fuck,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Okay. I'm familiar with that one. Yes.
And basically, what he's in this article he's laying out is the men who get married, men who seek marriage are guys who don't fuck.
I remember the article.
Basically,
Yes.
so this premise, right? But he does in previous articles he does point out that feminism is the problem, female sexual or promiscuity is a problem. And then now he's saying recently I heard him say technology is a problem as well. Sure, you could add that to the mix. But then when the solutions or prescriptions either he has given or others in the space have given seem to do nothing about pushing back on feminism or suppressing female promiscuity, right?
Right.
It seems to be workarounds or how to capitalize hedonistically on feminism or female promiscuity.
Exactly. Yes.
So then I say, okay, well then, if you're saying this is the problem and you're not providing a solution, or the only solutions that you're providing is how to make this problem work for the individual, but not really getting rid of the problem, you are the problem. You are
Yes.
part of it, you know? So I said, I cannot be red pill in this sense because I disagree with the premise of the solutions or the prescriptions. So I go back to it. So then what is the solution? Well, the solution would be to change, create a culture that alters our current status quo in the way we operate on both sides, both men and women. Well, I'm not a woman, and women don't listen to me. So how can I really, you know, what changes can I make? Well, you can only make changes for yourself, personally, individually. Okay, cool. But by doing so, you influence those around you. If you show them how, how you are going to be different, right? And how you're not going to play this game. It's still kind of like the premise of men going their own way, but you're almost going your own way from the red pill, you know, because I always looked at the red pill as like it was supposed to be like a gas station. You know, you go in there and you fill up, you get what you need from the gas station, and then you get back on the road and you hit your journey. Because your journey, your purpose, is ultimately what you're supposed to end up reaching by the time you die. You need to fulfill your purpose in life. But what ended up happening is that, and guys like Rollo and other people made the red pill, instead of a gas station, a destination, and made a place for guys actually camp out. And they stay in these echo chambers. And they get just a little bit of information, a whole lot of gossip, a whole lot of like hyperbole, and like just exaggerations of things. And it never helped guys get out of the anger phase. It's like they feed them this rerun, this like of all the shitty things that women do. And a guy that's already been through a bad relationship, and now he's woken up to female nature is bad, and he's, listening to these guys. Oh, great. I'm so glad. Thank you for helping me out. I'm aware now that my mistakes, and, and I'm aware of what I need to know what to look out for. But if they don't ever help them get to the next step, and all they do is do this rerun stuff, these guys are going to have this bitter lens, this broken lens or tainted lens and bitterness towards women. And then when they interact with women, all women are hoes. All women are 304s. I ruined a good relationship because I had that mindset one time. And it wasn't until I realized that relationship was done and over with and I was working with Thor, I realized, oh, wait a minute. I'm wrong here. Like, she's wrong. Women can do bad things, but I'm not even letting her make a mistake. I'm jumping down her throat before she makes a mistake, accusing her of the mistake that she's making, and assuming because she's a woman, she's going to deceive me and try to manipulate me. I'm already just I'm pre-attacking it before it even happened, which I end up manifesting that, you manifest your own destiny in that sense, right? I end up bringing that problem to life by assuming it was there when it wasn't there. So that's where I have the problem with the red pill. That's why I can't like co-sign its entirety. I do acknowledge it, and I applaud it for the bringing awareness, but just bringing awareness to the problem that's the easy part. Anybody could spot a problem if you give them enough time to look at the situation. But if you're not finding solutions, if you're not prescribing solutions that are actually going to address the problem that you're stating, then you're worthless to me. And guys need solutions. Guys are solution based. We solve problems linear. I'm not sure if you saw my you saw my masculine purpose. Okay, I have another video series. It's called Problem Solving. And I address how men problem solve. We problem solve very linear. We don't want to talk about our problems. We don't want you to, we don't ask us how our problems make us feel. That's not important to us. We want the solution so we could put it in action, so we could go about our life. But what the red pill has done is it made people camp out there in these echo chambers, not giving them the solutions that they need, that they really need, but giving them just these hedonistic solutions, these short-term, fixes to pacify them. You know why? If I solve your problems, you're never going to come back to me.
Yes, that's
I mean, it's just like a psychologist or any doctor, right? You know what? Oh, you got cancer here. Let me give you these pills. I'm not going to cure your cancer. Why would I do that? Let me just get you on some, take these, pills over here and take some, we'll get you through some radiation and, we're going to pacify you, not cure you. Because if I cure you, I'm losing out all that future income I could gain from you. Same thing.
yes. Yes, you make perfect sense because, as I understand it, from what I've read and observed, uh, content I've consumed is that the foremost aims of feminism are one, sexual liberation, which is hedonism, and two,
Hmm.
100% ownership of the reproductive and child raising processes.
Hmm.
So it's kind of this thing where this phenomenon where it's liberation while at the same time not having this man become a father or a figure in the family unit. So if men partake in this sort of hedonism, well, that is going along with what they're complaining about. Like you just said, they're complaining about
Yep.
this kind of maladaptive behavior or antisocial behavior of women and just simply taking advantage of it for like you said, the personal hedonism. But what I really don't understand is that I can't really relate to this. I can understand. I'm not going to lie here. I'm a man. I can understand why it's satisfying for a man to have sexual variety. Even some women like sexual variety. Human beings
Yeah.
generally likes both sexes do like sexual variety. I don't think it's just a male thing. However, we're human beings. We're not animals living in the wild. We have a society, we have a civilization. And part of being a human being is having discipline and having restraint and what Dr. Daniel Emmaus called sexual or reproductive law and order. And
Yeah.
what I, but I can't relate to the focus on it or wanting to simply just go with it. I mean, you're Christian. Shouldn't we be disciplined? Shouldn't we have control over our more base hedonistic instinct to have productive lives and to have order in society, to have stable households, families? That's where I don't get on board with it.
So I'm glad you brought that up because came up with something a while back. I read something that's kind of inspired like the way I wanted to frame it. And I said, from talking to a lot of women, like what, it's funny because women's like biggest issue and concern about men. I've talked to a lot of strippers, okay? I've talked to a lot of strippers, I've talked to a lot of adult film stars. And the one common thing that they've always said is that one, they will never date a fan. And actually, I did a video about this recently about Nala Ray, because Nala Ray and some other a former adult film star that found Jesus. They're in the kitchen doing something, cooking something, and they were asked on a live stream, "Has your husband's ever watched any of your content?" And they're like, "Oh my God, no! I would never marry a man that was watching my stuff. Like he was simping for me before. I could never marry a guy like that." And it was funny because it echoed very similarly to what the strippers have told me is that they would never get with the guy and they would never be in a relationship with the guy that they meet at a strip club or that they know goes to strip clubs. Why is that? Because ultimately, you know, and I write about this real quick. I said a man, this is like the character of a godly man or a good man. A man does not allow himself to be manipulated by a woman's sexual charms.
Right.
So why women don't even find that attractive? When the reason why women get it's they're part of it is due to insecurity, but another reason why women have a problem when their guys are always like, oh, looking at booty, like, oh damn, like always checking out women, is because what it displays is that you lack control of your drip, your desire, your natural desire to want to go, you know, you have no control over it. And she's like, if you are struggling keeping your eyes, straight, or looking, engaging with her and not noticing all the flesh around you, and she's with you, what what are you like when she's not around, right? Like, are you talking to them? Are you fucking them? Like, they have that fear because of that. And you know, as you mentioned, discipline is true. We are supposed to have discipline. We are supposed to be we are supposed to be the standard bearer of this, right? But we don't. We excuse it. We tell them, get your notch count up. Go out there and get out there and go soil your wild oats, right? And it's that mentality and behavior that has led to where we're at. We don't have men with integrity and character as much as we used to. I'm a big person that believes on standing on principle, right? So whether you tell me a white lie or you tell me a big lie, I'm going to treat you the same, because the principle is you have given me reason to not trust you. You are willing to be dishonest with me, and that is dangerous. That is the ultimate cheating, is being dishonest.
Yes.
So that's the principle of it. So like, we don't have guys that are willing to stand on principle anymore. Our principles, our morality is subjective. Our principles, we sell our principles away for sexual access, right? And so guys have become slaves to pussy.
Yes. Slave to a vice. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't care like how rich they are. I don't care how successful they are. I don't care. They're still a slave to women. And we have seen the love or the idolatry of women destroy nations.
Yes.
Look at Cleopatra. What happened with them?
Yes.
So that's a perfect example. And the Bible, and this is the funny thing, the Bible, it talks so much about this. I mean, 1/3 of the book of Proverbs is all warning about bad female behavior. Like,
Yes.
but you don't hear it in the churches.
No, you don't.
And it's sad, because it's the modern evangelical church is the only place that feminism is thriving. Transgenderism has shut down the world, the secular world, with feminism. Transgender came out and they put a cap to what feminism could really do, because now feminism has another clash here, right? They're not just clashing with men that want to be men, but now they are clashing with men that want to be women. They're competing with this other like group here. And it was a lot easier when it was just men bad. Now it's, well, now you got to call them women too. And they opened up that door. So the only place that feminism is thriving right now is in the church, because they still have those binaries.
Yes. Yes. Well, and not only that, I mean, everything you said is spot on. I agree with it. But I mean, now that we're on the topic of hedonism, I'm sure you know of the topic, the contract of spinning plates, obviously.
Mhm.
Now, besides the hedonism, this kind of mentality of spinning plates and constantly seeking new sexual variety, it kind of reminds me of a sort of emptiness or insecurity. I mean, I mean, like I said, naturally speaking, we are like sexual variety. And I would say that I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I believe that naturally we are polygamous naturally, meaning we have an instinct for polygamy, but monogamy is what, let's say, overrides it with discipline and choosing to be monogamous. But our instinct is not monogamous. I don't believe. Most people, I don't believe it. But one thing is that, I mean, instead of just grieving over a woman, let's say someone had a relationship or a divorce, why would there be a need to constantly have an insurance policy of this group of women that one can select from rather than just simply grieving? Let's say, gathering one's life together, and settling to who they are after this breakup, and then maybe eventually finding a new mate. What do you think is behind
Because
this?
I could speak from my experience. Like, when my divorce was going on, and my whole identity was in my family, right? I was her husband. I was their father, right? That was part of that's part of who I was. That's part of what people knew me as. Wasn't that was actually it was the thing that I took the most pride in.
Yeah.
Wasn't the fact that I was competitive bodybuilder that was sponsored. It wasn't, the fact that I was a, valedictorian in Liberty University in theology. I didn't care about those things as much as those things were cool. Those were like little bullet points of, on my resume. Sure, fine. But the thing that I was proud in was I was a father. I was a husband. That my identity was in that. And that was a mistake. My identity was never should have never been just in those things. That's part of me. It's not who I am completely. It's part of what I am though. But when men put their entire identity in this, that's their world. And then when their world comes apart and they're spiraling down, they want something to make them feel needed and wanted. And like to fill in that gap, that void. Am I still good enough for somebody to, like the person that I invested my everything into, my blood, sweat, tears, years into, just discarded me like trash. Am I really trash? You're trying to figure this out. So this idea of grasping onto women, hey, validate me, they don't have any internal validation. They're looking externally for the validation they should find internally. And that's why they end up doing this. But the idea of spinning plates per se is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be negative if done correctly, right? Because I honestly would say to guys, you're gonna be able to go through and be able to vet a lot better if you're honest. This always has to do with honesty and upfront, right? I'm never going to be exclusive with somebody until I say I'm exclusive with you, right? So if I'm dating non-exclusively, she's dating non-exclusively, there is no commitment. I don't owe her any exclusivity, and she doesn't owe me any exclusivity until we have a conversation about becoming exclusive. So if I'm talking to this girl and going on a dates with her, I'm vetting her out, see if I like her, see if we have matchup, see if she falls into my worldview, right? But that doesn't mean I can't also see this other person here who I'm also interested in, has, to see if we have anything, see who compares to who, right? I'm not sleeping with anyone. You don't have to sleep with any of them.
Right. Exactly. Yes. It should be
That's
dating. Yes.
You're just dating. You're getting to know them.
Yes.
And then as the plates fall themselves out. They will, disqualify themselves over time, right? So you're spinning all these different plates. One, you don't need to be spinning 20 different plates at once. I mean, really, you must not have anything else to do in your life. You must be like, I don't know, Elon Musk, like to where you have the time and do all those logistics. But I mean, if you're spinning like 2 or 3, 4 plates or whatever max, like just to kind of see what's out there, all right, you don't have to commit to any of them. You are vetting them out. You're seeing who works, who meshes with you better. That's okay. But being upfront about it, like, is the key. Say, hey, letting them know this is non-exclusive until that time. But if you're sleeping with them, if you're just trying to get your dick wet with all these, now that's a problem.
Yes,
because
exactly.
you are just perpetuating the problem that got you here in the first place. The very thing that you're complaining about, you're adding to. And this is why I had a problem with, I mean, there's some people that we have talked to that we both know, and I've had debates with or disagreements with, that'd be like, oh, there's no marriageable women. There's no marriageable women today. It's all women's fault. I'd be like, okay, well, no, it's not all women's fault, but okay, I'm hear you out. So you're telling me by saying there's no marriageable women, what I'm getting from that is that you want to be married. If you're complaining that there's no marriageable women,
Right.
You must want to get married then, right? And have kids and have a family. Okay, so that's why would they be complaining about something that they don't care about, right? So if you're complaining about there's no marriageable women, I understand. I feel you. But then if the next argument we have is that we should legalize prostitution.
That one, yeah.
Help me. The cognitive dissonance here is I'm stuck. How can you be complaining about lack of quality women to marry and have family with and procreate and have children within a lifetime with, but at the same time want to legalize prostitution? So what? That we could only have a greater amount of unmarriageable women,
Exactly.
right? That's not the solution. That's not this. It's literally that's the red pill for you, right?
Right.
Feminism is a problem. Female promiscuity is a problem. Go out there and get your notch counts up, boys. Go bang 50 women before you settle down.
Right.
That's the same thing of saying there's no marriageable women, but let's legalize prostitution.
Yes. You see, that's what I was going in Dr. Stephen Baskerville's work, and also Roger Devlin, also as I was talking in Shah in my video with Shah, that I think also a lot of them, well, they might be aware of this, but they really I think, feed the beast because within this sort of free-for-all licentious environment, there are forces that are looking to get men in trouble. So
Yeah.
it's like inviting men to play a game that some of them are going to get penalized for. There are people out there are forces out there, governmental forces, even academic forces on college campuses that will punish people for playing this game, such as false accusations,
I've been through one myself.
yes, all sorts of problems that people can encounter from playing this game that has no rules. Even when there's consent, there can be a belated removal of consent
Hmm.
or false accusation. So, and also, there, let's say, people could say, oh, there are other means to prevent pregnancies. Well, people are still getting pregnant no matter what. We have abortion available and birth control available, and we have 25% of homes being fatherless. We have all kinds of situations where children have no father from this sort of licentious environment. And then also, if one is part of that, they could get hit up for child support, which occurs because the man did not look to form a family with this woman. So, do they just is that a sort of willful ignorance of this aspect of the society we live in that they are just simply going to play a dangerous game anyway?
Well, what it is that it's a byproduct of the hedonistic um, nature that like we're society that we live in. Go out there, do you like was it YOLO? You only live once, right? They never want to pass up on the opportunity of experience. The fear, the FOMO, the fear of missing out. So they're willing to take the risk, but nobody's accounting for the consequences. Nobody's accounting for what's going to happen after this. Nobody's accounting for, you know, the risk involved, right? And now people will say, well, Glenn, you're really hypocritical for saying this because you publicly have said you have a very experienced past. We'll just say that. Absolutely, you know. But I could tell you from my experiences, if I could actually go back in time and remove them, if I could go back and redo some, my body count be a lot less than it is because a lot of those experiences was not worth the consequence that I had to deal with after that fact. You know, like sure the sex was great in the moment, but then the aftermath of it, I didn't want to pay that bill. You know, like wow, wait a minute, I didn't want all this problems, but that's part of the consequence of fuck around and you will find out, right? So I
Yeah,
tell
literally.
guys I tell guys all the time now, like men need to have more dick control, be more selective and who you potentially give your offspring to. That's your lineage, your legacy potentially could be with one of these women that you are just trying to get in bed with. Like, your whole goal is I want to get her in bed. It's not that I want to make her my wife, right? And so you have to be more selective because not every woman is worth your legacy.
Right. Exactly. I think people should be they should be careful of who they do this with. I'm not going to not deny that it is thrilling, but I don't think that everything that's thrilling or feels good is good.
I'm telling you, once a guy goes through being falsely accused, I'll tell you right now, like every room in my house has cameras everywhere. right? And that I even had that when I was married, right? For the simple being that I would never be in a situation ever again that I would be falsely accused. I would always have some form of receipt, evidence to support to clear my name. Because after going through a court martial and going through the public embarrassment and the public shame of being accused of something that you know you didn't do wrong, but nobody fucking cares because a woman is not going to lie about such things, right? And this is before Me Too. I don't even know if I would have survived if it was during Me Too because everybody was being crucified at the the cross or burned at the stakes,
Yeah.
you know, and it changes your worldview. It changes how you operate, how you interact with women. I'm very rarely alone with women unless I'm like in a relationship, like committed relationship. I'm with obviously with that person I'm alone with, but very rarely do I actually allow myself to be just alone with women because I try to be above reproach in these areas because I know what it's like when somebody throws an allegation at you. So, that's me. But I tell guys the same thing. Be very careful who you sleep with. Even if you have to get it on camera before you have sex, like, record yourself saying something, or you don't even have to show her face, but just get the audio recording saying that she wants to be with you intimately. That right there helps your case, but it's sad that we have to tell guys these things. But what society has failed to do, and this is where I always blame the church. I always go back to all this goes back to the church. And the reason why I say that is because the church was always supposed to influence culture.
Yes.
But the church has been influenced by culture. It has bent the knee to culture many times.
Yes.
And now it's to the point where, you can't trust the church. That's how people feel. So what the church has failed to do was, I think the church failed to hold men accountable for bad behavior that men were doing that warranted or gave women reason to collectively gather together and resist, form this movement, right? They want this sense of independence because there was levels of injustice or mistreatment that they felt was unbecoming, and nobody was holding these men accountable for the behavior, whether it's they left their wives or they would be abusive to their wives, right? And nobody was there to defend this woman, per se. The woman was looked at as a man's property, but the man was mistreating his property and no one was helping her. So now women are like, we don't want to be property. We want the same thing as you do. We want to be equal to you because you guys get away with shit, and you guys could legally protect yourselves, but for some reason we're not able to. If the church would have corrected men behavior back then, held men accountable, if society would have held men accountable when they saw these things going on, maybe we wouldn't have seen the rise of feminism as we do now. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it would have still been the same. But now we see it in the reverse. We are hyper holding men accountable. A simple allegation that's all it takes. The due process is all the way thrown out.
Yes.
There's no due process for you now. Why? Because there have been so many instances where said bad behavior went unpunished for so long, like the Harvey Weinstein, right? Issues. Name the other, I forgot the other person's name on the tip of my tongue, but we have had pastors. I mean, look in the 80s, the Catholic Church, the priests, what do? They try to sweep all this bad behavior under the rug. Women have seen this repetitive bad behavior of when men do bad behavior, they try to hide it. They don't hold them accountable. So then we're not going to be held accountable. Fuck that. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to be just like them, but we're going to hold them accountable. We're going to get them for what they did. So then now you have this us versus them. Well, what caused that? The failure of accountability. Right? And then now, what are men complaining about? What do men want women to do? We want women to get their comeuppance. We want these women to get held accountable for their bad behavior. We want a woman that was a 304 or an OnlyFans model or a prostitute never to be married ever because she's a slut and that's what she gets. She sold out, family creation for money, and we don't ever want her to be redeemed.
That this is you're describing this negative, this terrible negative feedback loop we're in. We're in a
Yeah.
vicious cycle here.
Yep.
Now, do you think that this? See, I think that there's something else going on here, meaning that what I don't like about some of this, well, much of this content is this excessive focus on getting women all together. I mean, this hyper focus on women and sex. It's simply because I believe that this might be the manifestation or a symptom of other serious problems that men have, meaning one of them being that, like you said, that men have lost their identities. And I believe that we have lost our identities simply because, pun intended here, judging from my YouTube channel's name, a lack of male spaces. That we have gotten
That's true.
so jammed up with thinking about women and focusing on getting sex. And like you said, pouring every single fiber of our identity into a family. Now, I'm a married man. I have two children. Part of my identity is being a father, but it is not all of my identity. I
Yeah.
still love listening to music. I still love watching movies. I call my friends every single day. I'm going to be getting together with my friends very next week. I'm seeing my friend. Following week I have a plan with my friend. My friend just visited my house last week. I'm still in contact with all my guy friends every single day, whether it's a phone call or a text. I believe that we've simply lost our identities altogether.
Well, see, yeah, that's part of it. There's a phrase called, saying iron sharpens iron, right?
Yes.
We had spaces. I mean, it wasn't too long ago where we had male only gyms,
Yes,
or we
lodging.
had separate sections. They had the women's workout center is over
Yes,
here in this side of the room, and the men's is over here, and you don't go to the other side, the opposite
yeah.
side. Stay in your lane. Women wanted equality. Men wanted something to look at. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, but we paid a price for we've paid a price for uh, not having our own spaces and our own activities. And what I another thing that I don't get about the red pill is that much of the content, well, whether these creators that I've heard from, I don't consume so much of it, but I browse through it to realize what's out there. Some of it's entertaining, some of it's informative, I have to say. But what I don't really understand is uh, this contention towards women, mean like what they have this, I'm going to just say here, this bitching and moaning about women. While at
Oh
the
my
same,
God.
yes,
Fuck.
but not only that is that there's bitching and moaning while at the same time having plans and exhorting men to get women. Now this doesn't make sense to me. If people
Yeah.
are that bad, man or woman, if they're that bad and worthy of that much whining, I don't want to associate with them. And sometimes I've asked people, if you're complaining about them, why do you want to associate in any way or form? And I don't really get an answer to that. It's incongruent.
That's my biggest gripe. What I call like these black pillars, or these like this new wave of MGTOW. All right, because MGTOW before was men going their own way, meaning men are choosing to do it not again according to the way society tells them to operate. Men are going to operate according to how they want to operate, right? And a lot of people think that, like, oh, that just means men are just removing themselves out of the dating market, or removing themselves out of getting with women or being with women. No, that could be the extreme. Men completely checking out. And it's like you could go down like the turd flinging monkey route. Like, I interviewed him. He's a funny guy, great guy, but he decided to check out, and he went and just got a doll. And his doll, I think it's her name Celeste, his waifu, he calls her. Um, that's who he's fucking. He's not even interacting with women because he's like, I'm just done with them. That's him going his own way.
Yes.
Now, you could say I go my own way because I do not agree to state marriages. I've already been through divorce. I'm never going to do it again. That doesn't mean I would not have, a relationship. That does not mean I wouldn't even get in a committed relationship. It doesn't mean I would not even consider covenantal marriage.
Yeah.
I'm doing it my own way, though. I am not going to go through the state court and get a state license and have this basically this business contract, like this corporate partnership legally with the state and this party, because it's a inconscionable contract. It's one-sided.
Yes.
I'm not going to sign a contract where I take the risk, all the risk here. That's not what I'm signing up for. I won't do that again. But I wouldn't completely remove the idea of forming a covenant, a commitment, a lifelong commitment with the right person, right? In the future. It's just not going to be the same way that everybody else does it, right? That's still me going my own way. Sure, it may mirror what everybody else has, but it's not the same, right? That's still MGTOW. But now the current day MGTOW is these guys that want to bitch and complain about female behavior, but then say they don't want nothing to do with women. But then they want to bitch that there's no marriageable women. But at the same time, not ask themselves, why are women not attracted to them?
That's an inconsistency also. I see. I've come across some MGTOW guys who are actually very optimistic. They're doing their own thing. They're enjoying their lives. They're not complaining too much. I'm just going my own way. I don't want to be married, and that's fine. I think that's fine. But there's sometimes an incongruency because I would think that if one is going his own way, the complaints, some of them valid, some of these complaints are valid. I'm not saying they're
Yeah.
invalid, but wouldn't that end the complaining? I mean, you're going
Yeah. If you take your
on.
ball and you take your ball and go home,
Yeah,
you shouldn't be complaining. You chose to take your ball and go home. That's your choice. You choose to leave. You don't get to complain about making the choice to leave on them. Oh, I would still be playing ball with you guys if you guys just weren't being so mean to me. You know, nobody told you to leave, bro. Well,
right,
you guys are being mean, so I grabbed my ball and I'm going home. All right, that's your choice. Go home.
right.
You know?
Yeah, and another question I have for you that I'd like to talk about is that where does the concept of love come in here? Because I've seen some people, and obviously not all red pillars, so to speak, share the same views on everything. They have different outlooks of their own. No sphere or space are going to have everybody agreeing or having the same outlook on everything. However, I've heard some say that love is never unconditional, or that women don't actually love men, or they only love men based on certain criteria, for example, income, whether the man is employed or not. But I don't believe that. And I also appreciate that you, Michael Sartain, Gia McCool, and Shah were
Yeah.
discussing romantic love and the
Yeah.
different forms of love. Like the Greeks classified love into different forms of love. And I'm glad that you touched upon the
It's funny that you mentioned that because I just talked about this last night in a space too. But please go continue.
Yeah, exactly. Because I really liked that video that you were in with Shah, Jay McCool, and yourself, and then Michael Sartain came at the end, and you were talking very pragmatically about love and marriage. But I mean, there is love that comes from two people being together over time and sharing lived experiences with child raising, challenges, good times, bad times, times with in-laws, times with all kinds of people in one's life, and that's a real love. I'm not talking about a romantic love. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about just hormones boiling that could fizzle out at any moment when someone gets quote bored. Now, what I'm saying is this though: is that I don't believe that I do believe there is actual real love. Now, I work in healthcare, and I actually one example amongst several examples that there was a demented age man, probably in his late 80s or early 90s, at a place I was working, and during the COVID era, when we had limited visitation or no visitation, there was a wife of a man who was already near, he was going to go in a few years or soon, who could not even communicate properly anymore. And his wife would sing him songs at his window outside his room. This is a man that
Just so he could hear.
yes, okay.
Just so he could
Yeah.
hear.
He's not providing value anymore. He's eating pureed slop because he has a swallowing difficulty. They're not having wild encounters anymore. He's not making money anymore. And this woman stood with him to the death. And my grandmother stood with my grandfather to the death. And
Yeah.
we have many cases of this in which I've seen, even working, in which women will, who are in a good state of mind, still fairly healthy for their elderly age, move a demented old man around in a wheelchair and feed him pureed slop, and he's not of any value anymore. I mean, no,
You
he has
know,
value.
really the sad thing is there's a statistic on this. If it was the other way around, the percentage is more than likely, more often than not, it's the guy that will abandon the woman. 'Cause the woman, you know, she's got to provide. She's got to provide. She's got to take care of the kids. She's got to take care of the house. She's got to take care of the home. And the when she's terminal or um
I've seen that. Yes.
and that's, I mean, it's a sad statistic, right? You know, but we have all this negative thing to say about women, right? But when it's done right, when you are a good man and I think the difference between an evil patriarchy and a good patriarchy, because I don't think we were ever going to have anything else other than a patriarchy.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
So if you're a good patriarch and you got years doing this and you've been a good leader for your family and you've been providing I say provisions when I say you got to be a good provider, you know, leader, protector, it's more than just the basic shit that keeps the roof on over your head and the lights on and the bad guys outside. That's the bare minimum, but there's a lot more than that that goes to those roles. um when you are a good husband and she values you, you have not like allowed her to disrespect you, devalue you. And you get to that point in life when you are unable to perform the way that you used to perform. They honor what you have done, you know, and they want to reciprocate. This woman I talked to, her husband was always the sole provider. He ended up getting injured. Now he's in a wheelchair, right? And a horrible accident that led him there. She's a very, very attractive woman. I mean, very attractive woman. Live up in Washington when I lived up there. I used to cut his hair. Guys, I used to be his. I used to have to drive to his house to go cut his hair for him because he couldn't get into with his wheelchair and get into the chair, you know, the barber chair. So it's just easier for me to just go to him. And I remember the first time I met his wife, I was like, "Is that your sister?" Because God damn, she's hot. You know, he's like, "No, that's my wife." I'm like, "Holy!" Like you would not think. Like, why is this? What? Like, you know, he's not. He can't. He's not leading. He's not protecting.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's
Yes.
definitely not providing.
Yes.
He must have the biggest dong in the world, right? You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
but how? Because his legs don't work. You know, where's the
Right.
motion coming from,
Right.
right? It's the years that he paid into this. He laid this down to where she is like, I don't want anybody else other than him.
Right. And yeah. Go ahead. I don't want to
And
interrupt.
it's like we think that's a dream, we think that's a fantasy, we think that's not reality. No, it very can be reality.
Yes. There are women with husbands in prison. They wait for the guy to get out of prison. They're
I-
waiting and
I'll,
waiting.
I'll give you another little story. It's more recent. My co-star, when she met her husband, um, he just got out of the military, just got through a divorce. He was living at home. He didn't really have like they knew each other. They've known each other for a while, you know. It wasn't like he was driving a Bugatti
Mhm.
and balling. He had a child. He was divorced. He was struggling to find, you know, his way out after getting out of the military, trying to reestablish himself. She's coming in with all the resources. She's coming in with she would be the what the we would call a high value man criteria. She would meet them all. She had the resources, she had the success, she had everything. There was she didn't need, you know, there wasn't anything that she could extract other than him.
Exactly. Yes.
And she helped lay the groundwork for him to be a multimillionaire.
That's excellent. But where
And
did
they built that together. It wasn't she didn't just disqualify him because oh he didn't have the money, he didn't have the lifestyle that he was oh he didn't have his own place because he's living with his mom and you know he just got out of the military. It wasn't he didn't get disqualified for all these things. This is where people overlook character, right? And morality. They don't add this to their high value man matrix because I always say like you know a woman is not going to need you for everything. They need you to complete them. And that's why we're supposed to be, we're better together in part. We're complementary, right?
yes.
What she needed is leadership. She needed someone that she could trust, that will guide her, right? And he was military. He was a great leader. I mean, guy would kill you with a paperclip and a rubber band. He'll find a way to assassinate you. He was that ranger.
Yeah.
He had that confidence and that dominance that she was yearning for. Because you've seen all these other fuck boys that just didn't measure up. And she didn't want to, she's only been with one other person at this point. Everybody else is trying to objectify her sexually, right? And she didn't want that. And she took what somebody would think that would not be of value or status. And she's like, I want that. And they became a great success. 20 plus years married, still happy, and they're still building their empire.
Yeah.
That does happen.
It does. Yes.
But guys don't hear these stories.
Yes, but there are even regular middle class couples where even some of my friends have gotten to no fault of their own laid off from a job because the business closed, the location of the place they worked, it just closed. They were not irresponsible men that got terminated for no reason from a job.
Yeah.
They went home, they were informed their wife they got laid off from a job, and the wife, they kept on trucking along. The guy was employed again. I don't get this whole notion that there are no good women out there who are going to stick by a man's side. And there are also examples of men passing away and the woman never
marrying again.
Never marrying again. And not because they're so content to be alone, but this was the man for them. They built a life with this man. The man was the father of their children, and they said, "You know what? This is."
I have a story about that too. So
Yes.
just recently, actually, about last week, a girl that used to work for me, doing a lot of my producing behind the scenes, like getting interviews for people and lining things up, doing all the logistic stuff. She found her husband dead in the bathroom one morning, and she has been distraught ever since. She's called me last night and we're talking and she's like, I'm never gonna find anybody that could ever love me as much as he did. I said, I know he set the bar really high. He sure did. He treated you good.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would not want anybody. I don't want anybody else. I'm like, is that okay? I'm like, it's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, but you also need to be open to maybe one day you may have a change of heart in that. And that's okay too.
Exactly.
But it's the reality is that, as of her right now, she realizes that nobody else could measure up to what this man was. And she would never want to settle for anything less than how he set the standard. He said, no, this is how you should be treated. And she's like, I don't even think guys could treat me 60% of the way that he did.
Well, where do you think that this comes from, this dismissal of actual love? And I'm not saying romantic love. I'm talking about what we're talking about here, the real love that builds over time. Where do you think that is this an envy of this because maybe a certain person did not experience this? Why are they so quick to dismiss the idea of actual love from being with each other? There's no such thing of this. Where do you think this sentiment comes from?
It comes from the lack of not acknowledging their own failures.
Okay.
They're saying, because I didn't experience it less love with my relationship, that's all fairy tale bullshit. Because he also told me that he didn't experience this love. That's all fairy tale bullshit. Because I did everything I was supposed to do. I was the provider. I was the protector. They only talk about the basic stuff, though, of these provider protector roles. They don't go into detail about everything else. Right. I wanted to read what the stages of love real quick. And I shared this last night. The first phase, it's called ludus. Right. It's that playful love. This is fun. It's flirting, teasing, right? Banter. There's low stakes here, but high curiosity. It's that dating stage, right? The first, you're testing the chemistry. You're seeing if you guys are both socially compatible together. There's no obligations yet. You're just feeling things out, but you're attracted, right? People mistake having this ludus phase for emotional depth. And you can't have emotional depth here.
Exactly. Yes.
Then you move on from the ludus phase to the eros phase.
Mm,
Now, this is the desiring love.
mm,
I want you. This is where the sexual attraction and the romantic pull comes into play. A lot of people jump to this without experiencing the first part. They just want to, they want the sex and then they think they could build everything afterwards. No. That's where this is where the fantasy and the projection and intensity comes in. You start thinking about what your marriage is. The women will start thinking about what their marriage would be like, what the wedding day would be like, right? This desire of the person. It's not just sexual, but there's more of a desire. There's this yearning for this fantasy land, right? There's strong emotional, connections here now. This is where that starts building. And it's often this is where limerence is also at. We see a lot of limerence phase here. People build long lives of promises on temporary states. And this is still really temporary, right? Eros initiates bonding, but it doesn't sustain it. Okay. People mistake that. Then there's agape. This is, I've now chosen this person. I have now committed to this person. This is where that sacrificial love is.
yes.
This is where you endure these things. I love you regardless that you're a bitch right now, right? Like that's, that's that love. This is where the vows and the covenant come into place, right? This is where it's not just I enjoy your time. I now owe you a duty. I have a duty to you. There's loyalty. Then now I'm going to be restraint because I'm not worried about anything else out there. I have now I'm here with you. I'm in this. That's where the faithfulness during hardship comes in. That's where it gets tested, right? This is where love is no longer a feeling, but it's a manifested action, not just an emotion, right? This is where marriage, I would say, actually begins.
Mm,
Couples expect eros, that desiring sexual attraction, right, to carry people what only agape can. And then we have pragma. This is where we build together.
mm,
We shared responsibilities. I'm out of work. She picks up the slack, right? Like you mentioned. This is where parenting and finances and health, all these things matter and are concerned,
yeah.
right? Sacrificing for long-term good, not for short-term gain. So this is where stability is over excitement. You're gonna choose what is stable and focus on what is stable and what is good over the cheap thrills. You don't want to risk what you built because you don't want to lose the stability. This love is expressed as competence and reliability, right? So your question was, why don't we do that? Like, why don't we experience this anymore? Because what we tend to do is we tend to build things off of eros that only agape or pragma could actually carry. We confuse the desire for intimacy with this individual. We think that strength, that passion, that desire we have for him could carry the weight that only agape can when it comes to the duty and the enduring part, the hard time, the shared responsibilities, the sacrifices. But when you realize only eros, that desiring love is definitely not going to endure. Eros is like, let me weigh out these options. Is the sex worth all this other stuff? That's where we fail. We don't allow the love to mature. We don't allow it to grow naturally. We want it to microwave it. We want to put it in the microwave oven, the easy bake oven, turn it on, and then it pops out, and we think it's supposed to sustain. We haven't strengthened it. Like, just like bodybuilding, like, this, when you're in the gym and you're training, the first time you're lifting weights, you're not really that strong. You're struggling a little bit. But it's like with eros, we think that, you think you're the man, you get underneath that bench
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like, all right, here I go. I'm going to hit 315. And then you lift it up and you realize, oh, I don't have it. And then you crushes you
Yes.
because eros was not strong enough. It wasn't built to do that. You needed to let those muscles mature and have it grow from adolescence, eros, to agape,
Mm,
to pragma. to be able to lift that weight, to carry those burdens, to take on those sacrifices. That's where men and women both fail. And I blame Hollywood. You know, I work in Hollywood. I can tell you, we depict stories that, you know, we want to be reality, but they're just stories. Now they could be people's reality, but only movies are an hour and a half long, 2 hours, and they don't tell you, they can't, there's no way a movie in 2 hours could depict the struggle and the growth of love realistically, you know. So people only go off of what they've seen in movies, and they want that to mirror their life. And when it doesn't, it's a failure. Well,
Yeah.
movies are just that, to entertain you, not for you to mimic or mirror your life after.
Yeah, I agree with it. As I said before, the media has had a very strong influence in the relations between the sexes, and
Mhm.
that's worth talking about and elaborating on also. So, yeah, I think that wraps it up. It doesn't really fully wrap it up, but I would like to actually do another video with you one day if you're up for that one day. Because
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot more, I believe, to unpack about what we're talking about here. I mean, each subtopic is a conversation in itself. So if you ever want to discuss this again, I would like to continue.
Well, you know, before we leave, I never like ending an episode without giving actionable information. All right. Um, so I mentioned that I did a show with James Sexton. And what I didn't tell you is that actually I just recently released another book. A lot of it was inspired by James Sexton's work, and I sent him the manuscript before I even released it. Had him review it. Actually, he reviewed it before we even had my episode with him. And I'm gonna share with you, because in this work, his body of work, I kind of compiled a lot of different work from other people, and where we aligned the stuff that I've written, stuff that my mentor Thor has written, stuff that Gia has written, and James Sexton has written, and where they aligned, right? And not also the Bible. The Bible is also the very foundation of it. So where everything aligned, that was the rule. That was the thing that we're highlighting. So I wrote this thing called How Men Stay in Love. Um and and I'm just gonna like give you some excerpts out of it real quick, if you
Yeah.
don't mind. Because like I said, practical advice, actionable information is key. Because we just highlighted all the problems that we're dealing with, the men are dealing with, but we didn't quite give them any tools for success. And I think that's important.
Yes. And
So,
what I would like to do actually is when we do speak, if and when, is that I would like to actually have a segment only on solutions. Like I don't want to leave anybody hanging.
oh yeah, we could dive. I would just gloss over these
Yeah, yeah,
solutions,
sure. Yeah,
but
that's good. Yeah.
I'm not going to go into them. But next time we could definitely dive deeper into it. Let me pull it up here. 1 second. Just gotta find. Here we go. Come on. Oh, there you go. Thank you. So in this, here we go. I'm going to share the screen. I'm just going to kind of highlight some of this stuff here. So let me actually fix this. All right, perfect. So as you see here, so this is like the table of contents, right? Each chapter helps guys to prepare for marriage and to maintain marriage based off of, like I said, the Bible, Thor's work, what James Sexton has wrote, what Gia's wrote, what I've wrote. And at the end of each chapter, I'll get to it, there's an actionable guide that they follow. It's a 12-week program. So I made a book for men to actually use with other men. You work with this as a group. It's a workbook that you and your buddies get together, people that you're honest with, right? And you go through this workbook and you're holding yourself accountable. You need accountability is the biggest problem that we don't have. We have lack of accountability. So I made this workbook so that men could get together, hold each other accountable, develop those male spaces, and help each other become better men. So chapter 1 talks about becoming an asset before looking for love. What does that look like? We talk about, going to money. We go into the physical aspect because obviously the core four is important, but we also get into, you know, talking about establishing that conversation. Are you good with social skills? If you struggle with social skills, here's a task for you. Initiate 5 short conversations with strangers, right? These are actionable information, actionable steps that guys could take. And then we get into scriptures. And then, we get this whole thing is not saying that it's a foolproof plan because it's not, but what it does is it teaches you to prepare yourself to mitigate the risk that many of us have endured in relationships that we wish we would have learned ahead of time, you know? And so I think that for men, having a game plan, whether no, you're not going to find anything that's foolproof. There's not going to be 100% success rate because it always depends on the individual and the variables, right? But setting yourself up for success is the best thing that we could do. And challenging yourself to measure up, to level up, to rise to the occasion. And here's the thing, you're not necessarily, and I would tell guys to do this same stuff, even if they were said, I don't want a woman. If a gay guy came to me, said, Glenn, how can I improve my life? There you go. Level yourself up.
Yep. I mean, this is very impressive, actually. I would like to go into this with you further one day because I actually wish that I had this sort of material when I was very young. So this looks what you wrote, what you have written there looks very good. And I believe that people need more training and education before they even start dating, actually, that they should have these kinds of
Yeah.
things that you've just gone over here to begin with. And I
It took
think,
me 41 years. So
yeah.
I wish I had this when I was dating.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So I think it's excellent stuff, and I'm definitely want to delve further into solutions. And perhaps we could be joined by other people that think the way that we think.
And one of the biggest things that you're doing with your name, even just your name, a male space, back in the day we had rites of passages for men.
Yes.
You were not considered a man among your peers unless you have proven yourself to them that you were a man. We don't have that anymore. So now we have a bunch of fuckboys masquerading as men because there's no men maintaining the standard of men.
Well, they're not men are not regulating other men. And also, I want to add here that there was, for most of history, most of it, men regulated other men, and sometimes by means that we don't want to mention here. Actually, I mean
Yes.
severe. The more misbehaved the man was, the
There
harsher.
was a consequence
Oh,
for it.
real serious consequences, including being disappeared. So,
I know. Yep. They could. What happened to Floyd?
yeah. So, yeah. Well, yes, exactly. So, yeah, we have to get things on track, and I'm glad that people like you and your co-host and others are starting to really care about men and women and society as a whole, children, everything. So,
We have to care about both sides of the problem.
yes, I believe that. Yes. So,
Yeah, no, I would love to talk more about this. We could dive into it another time.
yeah.
Um, you know, but at the end of the day, for all the thing I want to leave with the guys that are listening to this with is that before you look at them and say they're the problem and point out all their flaws, look in the mirror and see where your shortcomings are. And before you even address anything across the street or over there, you better make sure that your shit is straight.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And I'm totally for that. I'm for male accountability, male solidarity, holding each other accountable, and also we have to look at not only look at ourselves as individuals in the mirror, we have to look at ourselves collectively in
Hmm.
the mirror. This is a very broad problem that cannot be solved by any individual, and that's what I'm trying to hit home here in some of my content here. So,
Yeah, I agree.
it's been great talking to you.
Oh, likewise, likewise.
Awesome. So I look forward to talking to you again. I'll be in touch. And where can people find you?
They can find me at my channel. Actually, we have a I'm really driving everybody to our Patreon account because Rumble or not Rumble, YouTube definitely has I've had problems with YouTube. Let's just say I had a lot of videos reported, not in the algorithm anymore, as much. So what I do is everything that you see on my YouTube, I share it live when we put it out there, but then I take it down to avoid the any type of flagging. So as you can see here, this is our Patreon. You can find all of our content and message me here on Patreon. We have merch. We have every episode that we have done is listed on here. And it's at Relentless Network on Patreon. Go check it out. If you like what I'm talking about, if you like, what you hear on my show, or what, you're going to see a lot more of that because there's actually multiple content creators that we're bringing together. It's not just myself and Gia. It is myself, Gia, and many other content creators from different sides of the sphere that all have the same message. See, we are on the side of truth. We don't care we're not male side or female side. We're not feminism, red pill. We're not Democrat or conservative. We are on the side of the truth. Whatever the truth is, that's the side that we want to be on. And when you're focused on what is true rather than what is my truth, then that's the way you move forward. That's the way you win. So go check out Relentless Network, everybody. Well, hope to see you guys there. Or you can find me on X at Mr. Glenn Lawrence. And yeah, man, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that's good. You provided great discussion tonight. So have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Talk to you later.